Today I'm back in my childhood home and I'm excited to film a little video for you. And this video is about triggers. And I'm feeling super inspired to film this because I want to share my personal experience of how my life has been changing as I've been dealing with my triggers head on. And I want to share with you kind of my tips and tricks and ways to approach these triggers because it is so difficult and it is so uncomfortable. But these are ways that have helped me so much and then actually benefited me because it's kind of like this little obstacle in the game of life that you just have to overcome, and then you unlock a new level or just like a new part of the map of your game. So, I want to talk about that. So, first of all, what's a trigger? What would I define as a trigger? I would define a trigger as anything that essentially elicits some kind of strong emotional reaction from you. This can be an event or like a person or a place. And this is typically because of the fact that in your past, maybe your childhood, or it could even be in your adult life, but in your past at some point you experienced something that basically had you attach a certain emotion to a certain scenario or like person or thing. Okay. So for example, like maybe if you were bullied as a kid for your hair, you might, like, I'm using a personal example, so I have very curly hair naturally, and when I was a kid I was bullied for that, and so now I feel very uncomfortable wearing my hair curly. So I would say it does kind of trigger me in a way when, people will say like your natural hair is so beautiful, you should wear it curly all the time. And for me, it's like hard because it's super uncomfortable because whenever I wear my hair curly, I associate it with this feeling of like not feeling good enough, not feeling attractive, just not feeling good in my body and like confident. So I would say that's like a trigger for me. So that's like one example. And what I've noticed is that, so in the past, I would very much kind of like ignore my triggers, and I would basically just be very avoidant. Instead of facing an uncomfortable situation head on, I would kind of run away from it or do everything in my power to avoid having to face it. Like if there was an uncomfortable conversation I had to have with someone, but it reminded me of something in my past, I just wouldn't want to do it. What I've found is that your triggers are literally gold, like a gold mine for you to like work at. And what I've found is that recently, when I have tried to kind of take the emotion out of these uncomfortable situations and just like gone at them, kind of like just diving head first instead of overthinking and overanalyzing, I've noticed that I actually benefit so much in my life as a result of facing this challenge. And the way that I look at it is kind of like in this game of life, you level up and like you have certain challenges that come up, and these challenges are encouraging you to respond a certain way or to like change your response. Like if there's a certain way you've always been responding to a certain situation, I think that you are being called to break that cycle and kind of like change the way that you normally would respond. So I've noticed that as I've started to do this and be less emotional about things and less reactive and just more like, let me just get this out of the way, like, let me just face it, I actually have so many blessings and synchronicities come my way right after that. And I really think this is because a huge purpose of our life here on earth as souls on our own individual journeys and like karmic lessons and patterns and everything, a huge part of our time on earth, I think, is to be able to learn these lessons and to break these cycles. Um, and that also goes hand in hand with reincarnation and past life regression of like, you've been here before, you have, incarnated as another body, could have been another species, maybe not necessarily human, but you definitely have lived before, as the spirit, as the soul, whatever you want to call it. And so it's really cool to think about, like, essentially that in these incarnations, you have kind of like this checklist of things that you need to learn, and like these, um, these things that you need to unlearn, and the aspect of leveling up in your life spiritually. And so I think I think that it's important to, or it's valuable to kind of look at your life this way, and kind of like the way that an alchemist would look at their life, of like, what am I learning through this? Like, what is this experience teaching me? In my last video, I'd mentioned that, you know, it's important to remember that you are the creator of your reality, and that you create situations, your higher self creates situations for you to experience in this physical plane. And those situations, those circumstances, events aren't always comfortable. And often the ones that are very uncomfortable, very out of your comfort zone, are the ones that are teaching you the most valuable lessons. And so, yeah, I think that's something I wanted to share. Um, so, the way that I've been approaching it is really just kind of like going for it. And I will also recommend some mindfulness practices as well. If you have a certain, meeting that you need to have with someone and you feel super anxious or nervous or whatever, I do recommend doing a meditation before you jump into that. There was a really uncomfortable conversation I had to have the other day, and it was also with an authority figure, and I've always kind of had, that's a trigger for me, like kind of talking to someone who's in a position of like authority. And so I just did a Pilates class before I had that hard conversation, and I found myself being so grounded and level-headed in that conversation that I wouldn't even say that I was emotional in the conversation. Like, I kept it so cool. I was completely myself and honest, and I just walked away from that conversation being so proud of myself, because there was a past version of myself who would have been so reactive and emotional, and I would have like been trying to defend myself and prove myself. And it's like, after having that movement of like the Pilates class and like really releasing a lot of the nervousness and a lot of like the stress and tension in my body through movement, I just found myself being so much more clear-headed and light. And so I recommend that to you for sure. Meditation as well always helps. A guided meditation could be great. I love to put something on from YouTube and just kind of listen. I also have some meditations that I've released on Spotify, and actually across all platforms. So I can link those down below if you're interested. But yeah, I think just like go easy on yourself, but remember that these situations that are so uncomfortable are going to come around and are going to continue to come around throughout your life. They're probably going to be more and more complex. The conflicts that you encounter are going to be more complex. The type of situations as you're leveling up are going to challenge your mind more and more. And so I think just remaining grounded is super important throughout it all, and remembering like that you're working away at this game, that you're chipping away at these challenges and these lessons that you're meant to learn in this lifetime. And at the same time, while you're doing that, always remember to have fun and to just keep that inner child alive, to always exhibit joy in anything that you're doing to the best of your ability, because that's the whole point. And I think often we get so consumed by the darkness, because it's so easy to get consumed by the darkness and whatever. And we forget the bigger picture, which is that this is all just a learning experience. The human experience is a learning experience, and it's not something that should be taken so seriously. And another important thing I want to mention is just like to allow yourself to find community. Like, community is so important, human connection is so important. You don't have to go through this isolated, you don't have to feel alone in you know, in life. And there are people out there, whether that's through the internet, through the YouTube community, or in person, who are experiencing very similar things to you. And, you know, maybe like if you're more introverted like I am, it could be harder to put yourself out there. But I really think that having community, having people to talk to is so valuable, and it's just so much more comforting than being in your own head all the time and like isolating yourself. And I've been there, so I understand it, but I just think, you know, it's important to get that reminder from people of like it's okay to express yourself and to like ask for help and to just want to like form friendships as well, because we're all going through this together, and life is hard sometimes and it sucks, but it can be more enjoyable if we do it with people we love, with people we trust. So that's what I wanted to share today. I'm sorry I didn't have my mic, so the audio is not going to be as good, but I love you so much. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you want more of this type of content, and I will see you next time. Love you. Bye.